The hum of the elementary school cafeteria faded into a buzz in Claire's ears. She was standing by the folding tables, holding a stack of orange flyers for the fall STEM fair, when she heard her name. Not her full name, just Claire, in that sweet, carrying voice that Claire had learned to dread. She turned. Tanya was walking toward her across the linoleum, heels clicking, Sophia's hand in hers. Sophia was 11, with her mother's dark eyes and a permanent expression of having been told something important just before walking into a room. Claire, hi, Tanya said, pulling her into a hug that lasted exactly 1 second too long. I was hoping I'd run into you. Claire stepped back. Hey Tanya, Sophia, how's it going? Sophia mumbled something and looked at her shoes. Tanya didn't waste time. So about the camp thing, I talked to Mark, and he thinks it's unreasonable that you won't help with Sophia's STEM camp tuition. It's only $400, and you know how much she loves that program. Claire felt the familiar tightening in her chest. She had explained this twice already, once in a text, once on a phone call that ended with Tanya sighing and saying, I just thought family helped each other. Tanya, I already told you. I'm not Sophia's parent. I'm not obligated to pay for her activities. A few parents nearby had paused their conversations. Claire could feel the attention shifting toward them like a slow current. Tanya's voice dropped, but not enough. It was the kind of not enough that was entirely intentional. I just don't understand how someone can be so cold. Mark told me how much you make, Claire. You can afford $400. You just don't want that. And then there's Jake's tutoring. He's failing algebra, and I can't afford a tutor on my own. You won't help with that either. It's like you want these kids to fail just because they're not you. Claire's face burned. She was aware of Mrs. Patterson from the PTA pretending to rearrange brochures 3 feet away. She was aware that Sophia was still staring at her, and that somewhere in the back of her throat, Claire could taste familiar. The shame of being a woman without children, being told in so many words that her money didn't matter because she wasn't using it for the said, her voice lower than she intended. This is no. Tanya's smile. This is exact place, because everyone here should know what kind of person you are. You're a financial abuser, Claire. You have the means to help family and refuse. And then you act like you're the victim when someone calls you out on. The cafeteria went quiet in the way that only a room full of people pretending not to listen. Claire set the stack of flyers on the table. Her hands were steady with her. I'm done with conversation, doubt. Not running, she hadn't tried for that. Moving quickly, past the bulletin board with fall calendar, through the double doors with the squeaking push bars, and into the parking lot where the September sun was still. She sat in her car for a long time before. That evening, she was heating up leftover pasta when her phone buzzed. A notification from the Ballantine Elementary parent group on Facebook. Tanya had posted, didn't open it. Then she did. The post came her directly. It didn't need to. Sometimes the people who have the most are least willing to share, began. A child shouldn't have to miss out on opportunities because someone who calls herself family decides good to help. If you know who I'm talking about, maybe you'll think twice before letting her volunteer around your kids. Financial abuse isn't always about money you take. Sometimes it's about who's to give. Claire set her phone to her. The getting cold. She stared at the refrigerator, at the mag from the hardware store, at the calendar with her work schedule ink. Somewhere in the house, there hummed. Out a dog barked. She thought abuser. She thought about how it sat us like a stone. Then she called Dana. The phone rang twice before Dana picked up. You're calling late. What happened? Claire told her. Not the polished version, the raw one, where her voice cracked on the word abuser, and she had to stop and breathe. Dana let her talk. When Claire finished, there was a silence, and then Dana said, Okay, here's what we're going to do. But Claire wasn't ready for what we're going to do. She was ready for Mark to fix it. Mark was the common denominator. Mark had married this woman. Mark could tell her to stop. She called him the next morning. He answered on the 4th ring, sounding like he'd been expecting it. Claire, hey, I heard about yesterday. Did you? She was standing in her kitchen, coffee mug in hand, not drinking it. Tanya called me a financial abuser in front of half the PTA, and then she posted about it on Facebook. Mark sighed, the kind of sigh that said he was tired, and this was inconvenient. Yeah, she told me. Look, Claire, I think you guys got off on the wrong foot. She's just stressed about money, you know. 2 kids, she's not a single mom. She's married to. Technically, yeah. Mark paused. Look, the camp, it's $400. If you just helped out, this whole thing blows over. Nobody gets hurt. Tanya gets off your back. You get your reputation back. Win. Claire set the coffee mug down so hard a little sloshed over the rim. So your solution is that after she called me in a beer, I'm just... No, Mark, I'm not paying for your wife's kids' summer. I'm not paying for Jake's tutor. I am not their parent and I am not your second wallet. What I am asking is that you tell her to stop lying. Another sigh. I'll to her. But Claire, I can't control what she posts on Facebook. She's her person. Claire hung up. She stood in the kitchen for a minute, staring at the coffee stain. Then she wiped it up with a paper towel, because that was the kind of thing she... By Monday, the store... Not in any way she could point to and say, there, lie. Just small, corrosive way. Mrs. Patterson gave her a tight smile at the grocery store and walked the other way down the cereal aisle. A mother she'd carpooled with last year unfriended her on Facebook, and when Claire showed up for her regular volunteer shift at the school lab, the coordinator, Linda, Claire, I don't know what's going on, and it's none of my business, but a couple of parents have asked if you're still going to be in the classroom with the kids. I told them you've been volunteering here 2 years. Wonderful. I just need you to know. Claire thanked her. She went into the lab and helped fourth graders build catapults out of sickle sticks. Smiled. And she didn't cry until she car. That was also the Jake. He was sitting on a bench beside the school, head around his neck, staring at his shoes. A group of boys walked past and one of them said something I couldn't hear, but Jake flinched. Almost went over. Then Tanya's SUV pulled up to the curb, and Jake got in, and the window rolled up. That evening, over. She brought wine and a notebook, and she sat on and said, "Okay, now we're going to talk seriously." She opened the notebook. Claire, work and family law. I've seen this 100 times. Tanya is building a narrative. Right now it's just Facebook and PTA gossip, but if it keeps going, it gets into the professional community. Your company does local charity work, STEM volunteer stuff. If someone at your firm hears financial abuser in the same breath as your name, that's feelings. That hurts your promotion, hurts your career. Claire stared at the wine glass in her hand, drunk any of it. You decide, Dana said. Do you want to keep ignoring this and hope it goes away? Because it won't. Or you want to do something about it. Outside started chirping. Somewhere down the street, a garage closed. Claire thought abuser. She thought about Jing on the bench. She thought about Linda's pitying smile. What are my options? She said. Dana's notebook had 3 bullet points by the time they finished the second glass of wine. 1, Dana said, tapping the page. You send a formal message, text or email in writing, stating clearly that you won't provide financial support for Tanya's kids, and that you demand she stop making defamatory statements. Creates a paper trail. 2, you document everything. Screenshots of her posts, witness names from the cafeteria, dates, times. If this escalates, you need evidence. 3, she paused. You talk to a lawyer about whether the divorce settlement can be revisited. Mark claimed financial hardship during the divorce. If that wasn't true, if he was hiding income, you might have grounds. Claire looked at the 3rd bullet point. You think he was hiding money? I think Mark Bennett has always told the version of the truth that's most convenient for Mark Bennett, Dana said. I don't know, but you should find out. Claire sent the message the next morning. She typed it, deleted it, typed it again, and hit send at 8:47 a.m., addressed to both Mark and Tanya. This is to confirm in writing that I will not be providing any financial support for Jake or Sophia. I am not their parent or legal guardian. I also request that you both cease making any false or defamatory statements about me, including on social media. I will not discuss this further verbally. Any further communication should be in writing. She set the phone. Her hands were shaking. She felt like she'd just jumped off something. 3 days later, the community center held its annual fall fundraiser. Claire almost didn't. Her company was a sponsor, and she was supposed to represent them at the silent auction. She almost called in. Then she put on a navy blazer because she was damned if Tanya Bennett was going to chase her out of her own community. The fundraiser was in the gymnasium. Folding tables covered in donated gift baskets. A local band playing too loud in the corner. Claire was writing down a bid on a restaurant gift card when she heard that. Oh, look who decided to show up. Tanya was walking toward her with 2 glasses of wine. Mark trailed behind, holding a paper plate with... Tanya, Claire said. I sent you a message. I said I don't want to discuss this. Discuss what? Tanya's smile was bright, formative. I'm just here supporting the community, unlike some people who have plenty of money but won't help a child. The woman with Tanya looked at Claire. A few people at the next table. Claire's She told herself away, to be the bigger person. All the things she'd been telling herself for years. You know, Sophia cried last night because she found out she can't go to camp. She kept asking why Auntie Claire hates. Something in Claire snapped. Not. Your ex-husband pays you $2,400 a month in child. Her voice was louder than she intended. Bill turned. Kevin pays on time every month, you know it. So don't stand there and tell me your children are in need, because I won't give you $400. The money's there. You're just spending. The gym went quiet. The band kept playing, oblivious. Tanya's face went white, then red. You have no right. I have every right to defend myself when you call me in public, Claire said. Her hands were shaking, and I'm being polite about it. Walked out. Didn't look back. In the parking lot, she leaned against, breathed. The air was cool. Somewhere inside, the band started Johnny Cash song, Done It. She'd finally said it out loud. Came. Because she just told Tanya, told everyone, that she knew about Kevin's support. She'd shown her. She called Dana. I need that lawyer. The one who handled divorce reopening. Tomorrow. The retainer was $500. Claire wrote the check that Friday, sitting in Patricia Howe's office on the 4 downtown, watching clouds. The first thing we'll do is request Mark's financial record discovery, Patricia said. She had the kind of calm that made Claire believe in things. If he hid income during find it, Claire nodded. $3,500, more than she'd spent. On the other side of town, Mark sat at his kitchen table, staring at his phone. Tanya was pacing. She knows about men, Tanya said. About the child support. How? Mark didn't answer. He was thinking consulting business. The one he'd the divorce. The one that had paid him almost $60,000 last year for an account. Mark, Tanya said. Did she say anything to you? About your finances? Mark looked up. His face was the face of a man who'd just realized the door he thought was closed would not be locked after all. No, he said. But we need to talk. The discovery request went out Monday. Patricia Howe's office filed it with the court, and Claire tried to breathe through the waiting. She told herself she was being patient. What she was actually being was restless. So when she ran into Gary at the hardware store that Saturday, she didn't walk the other way. Gary was Mark's younger brother, a building contractor with calloused hands and a habit of looking at the floor when uncomfortable. They'd always gotten along. Gary had even helped her put up a backsplash in the old house. Claire, he said. Hey, Gary, how've you been? He shrugged. Busy, I heard about stuff. With Tanya at the school. Claire's chest tightened. Yeah, it's been a lot. Gary looked at the floor. Look, I don't want to get in the middle. But Mark, he's my brother. You know how he is. He's always had side stuff. Consulting gigs, cash jobs. Nothing big. But during the divorce, when he was saying he was broke, I don't think he was as broke as he made it. Claire's heart picked. Gary, do you have proof? Documents? Gary held up his hands. Whoa, no. I'm not testifying against my brother. I just thought you'd know. Because Tanya calling you names isn't right. But that's it, okay? Okay, said. Thank you. She left lighter. Gary was sighed. More, at least. The consulting business lead. Something Patricia into. She didn't know Gary called at night. She did. Claire was asking about your consulting stuff, man. I think she's on to you. She didn't know Mark sat at his kitchen table until midnight, moving money between accounts. At work, things were getting strange. Rob Miller, the structural engineer who'd been on 3 projects with her, stopped by her cubicle Tuesday. Heard you've had going on, he said, putting one down. Personal stuff. If you need to talk or coverage on the Hen project, Claire looked at him. Rob was 47, divorced, quiet in the way of people who've learned not to make assumptions. He'd brought it before, but right now his felt like pity, like he'd heard the rumors and was true. I'm fine, she said, sharper than she intended. Hender's under control. I don't need coverage. Rob blinked. Okay, I know what you meant. She had her screen. Thanks for the coffee. Another beat. Then said, sure, walked away. Her monitor. The coffee there getting cold. That was the weekend. Maria, her neighbor from 2 doors down, texted to cancel their coffee. Check. And Claire knew. Maria at the fundraiser. Maria had heard. The Facebook group was quieter now, but the silence worse than the posts. People arguing about her. To her. On Thursday, the letter arrived. Official letterhead from a law firm Recognize. Addressed to her at home. She opened it standing in the doorway. Mail in one, keys in the other. Dear Ms. Bennett, it began. This firm represents Bennett and Tanya Bennett. We are writing regarding your ongoing pattern of harassment, including threatening communications, public confrontations, and attempts to interfere with our clients' family relationships. Our clients will not hesitate to pursue all available legal remedies, including restraining orders and defamation claims, should this behavior continue. We demand that you cease all contact through legal counsel. Claire read it twice. Then she sat down on the floor of her foyer, holding her keys, and laughed. It wasn't a funny laugh. It was the laugh of someone who'd just realized they booned to a knife fight. They weren't just going to defend themselves. They were going to come after her. She called Patricia. They sent a cease and desist, Claire said, calling me the harasser. Patricia was quiet a moment. Send me P. And Claire, whatever you do, don't contact directly. Not a text, not a call, not an email. Through me from now on. Put the letter in her lap. The words blurred a little. Okay, she said. Okay. The discovery results came back 3 weeks later. Patricia called Claire on a Tuesday afternoon, and her voice was different, flatter, more precise, the way people sound when they've stopped being surprised. Claire, I need you to sit down. Claire was at work. She walked to the stairwell, the one nobody used because it smelled like paint thinner. I'm standing. What is it? Mark's bank records. He has a second account at a credit union in South Carolina. During the divorce year, that account received $182,000 in deposits from a consulting business registered in his name. None of it was disclosed. None of it was on his financial affidavit. Claire leaned against the cinder block wall. $182,000. She'd been thinking maybe 20, maybe 30. Is it still active? Very. Last deposit was 6 weeks. $4,800. The stairwell was quiet. Somewhere above, a door opened and closed. He lied about everything. Claire. He lied about enough. Patricia. This is fraudulent concealment of assets. We can move to reopen the property division. Right now, I need you to gather anything else from the divorce. Old tax returns, bank statements. Claire went home and pulled the cardboard box from the top shelf of her closet. The divorce files. She was halfway through the stack when she... A handwritten note, folded in half from 3 years. Kevin Crawford's number. Mark had written it down during the divorce when Tanya was first coming. Claire had forgotten it existed. She stared at her. Then she picked up her phone. Kevin answered on the ring. Yeah? Kevin, this is it. Mark's wife. I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest. Tanya has been people at the school in the community that you don't pay child, that you're absent, that the kids have nothing because of help. Silence. Then Kevin said, "Really? That? Yes. I pay $200 a month. Every month on the 1st. Direct deposit. I have every record going back 4 years. Haven't missed a payment. I see the kid the weekend." His voice tightened. She's telling him a deadbeat? While she's spending my money on whatever the hell she spends it on? I believe, Claire said. I think I can prove it. But I need your records. Bank statements, deposit coins, everything. Kevin didn't hesitate. Send me your email. Claire hung up and sat of her closet. Divorce files spread around her. She had been wrong. She'd thought this was about $400 for summer camp. About gossip and hurt feelings. It wasn't. It was a system. Mark hiding income. Tanya hiding child support. 2 people in a life on lies. Then calling her the abuser when she wouldn't the pile. How Mark and Tanya found he'd contacted Kevin, learned. Maybe Gary told them. Maybe Tanya saw Kevin's name on Clay's phone at the grocery store. How they knew. Mark's lawyer the next morning. The tone had changed. No more cease and desist. Now there was a settlement offer. Mark would pay her $20,000. In exchange, Claire would drop everything. No reopen, no further investigation. No Kevin or the children. Claire emailed Patricia forwarded. $20,000 for $182,000 in hidden assets. She almost laughed. Then a text from a video message. Claire shouldn't have opened it. I had told her not to engage. She saw Sophia's name on the Tanya, and she opened it. On a bed, crying. Her face was red, her hair messy. Behind her frame, Tanya's voice. Tell her how you feel. Sophia looked into the camera. I hate you, Auntie, she said, cracking. You're mean. I wish you were dead. The video ended. Claire sat very still. The phone was in her hand. Outside, a lawnmower started up, a room like white noise. She thought about Sophia, 11 years old, sitting on a bed, being told to say those things. She thought about 14 teaching on a bench. They think they can hurt children, Claire thought. The weapon that will make me back down. She set the phone. She didn't call any. She sat for a long time, then stood up, walked to her desk, opened her laptop, and an email to Patricia Howe. The subline was, "We're not settling." The next 2 weeks were the worst of Claire's life. It started at work. Her manager Karen called her in 2 weeks before the scheduled annual review. "Claire, I need to be straight with you," Karen said, blinds half drawn. "There have been questions about your volunteer work at the school, a dispute with your ex-husband's family. I'm not saying any of it's true, but when your name comes up with the word abuser, it raises flags. The promotion to senior director? Delayed, not denied. Until this resolves." Claire nodded and walked back to her cubicle. She had a presentation in 20 minutes. Rob walked past her cubicle that afternoon. He hesitated, then kept walking. That same week, Patricia called. "Claire, bad news. Our firm discovered a conflict. We represented Mark's employer in a contract matter 2 years ago. The ethics committee is requiring us to withdraw. I can refer you to someone good, but you'll need a new retainer." Claire felt the floor shift. "How much?" "Another 35. Maybe." She'd already spent $3,500. Savings dwindling. Mortgage, carpet, and now another $3,500 just to keep that. Jake texted her. She hadn't contacted. She'd been following Patricia's instructions. No direct contact. But Jake had her number from when Claire would take him to baseball practice and buy him Gatorade after. The text was, "Stop trying to ruin our life. Just leave us alone. We don't want you in our lives." Claire read it twice, then set the phone down and went to the bathroom. She didn't know who was really behind that. Jake was 14. He could have written it. Or Tanya could have been standing for him. She sat on the bath floor. Old tile. The phone clicked on. And then she sit. The thing she'd been avoiding. She thought about the infertilities. Years of shots and appointments and hope that curdled into grief. Maybe it just was B. In that gentle way. As if her body's failure was a con. How at divorce, she'd thrown herself into volunteering at the school, into other children, because it was the closest she could get to the thing. Tanya called me a fine abuser, she thought. But the word that really got to me, abuser, it was the part about the kids. You want these kids to fail because us. Because somewhere deep down, she was not hated children, but that she was somehow less of a woman because she couldn't have them. That her money, her career, clean condo, none of it mattered because she hadn't done the one thing women do. The kind of crying that comes from a place so deep you'd know it was there. For she never had. For the years she spent trying. For the woman she'd been before all of this, who thought being good and being. When she was done, she wiped her face in the mirror. Eyes, running nose, she looked terrible. Looked awake. I am not less of a person because I couldn't have, she thought. I am not cold. I am not an abuser. I am a woman who worked hard and saved her money and said no when someone tried to take it. That is not a flaw, it's a boundary. Across town, Gary sat in his truck in a parking lot, listening to his phone. Mark had 3 nights before. Drunk, or close, bragging. I handled that divorce so clean you wouldn't believe it. She got the condo and the car and thinks she won. Meanwhile, I've got $180,000 she doesn't know about. And Tanya's welfare thing? Nobody's even checking. We're golden. Gary had recorded it. His thumb hit the button by accident, and then he kept recording because he was scared. Scared of what Mark was getting away with. Scared of what would happen if it came out and Gary had known. 3 days. Then Mark texted, Claire's lawyer is off the case. Conflict of interest. We're in the clear. And Gary thought, if she's screwed, then what Mark did worked. And if it worked, he'll do again. To someone else. Maybe to me. He started his truck and drove to Claire's condo. He didn't call first. He showed a clock at night and knocked. Claire opened it. Sweatpants, old t-shirt, face still puffy from crying. Gary stood in his work holding his phone. Bomb. Claire, he said, I have something you need to hear. The next month was a slow-motion landslide. It started with Mark's job. His pharmaceutical company received copies of the court filings, standard procedure, since his employment income was part of Discovery, and their compliance department took an interest in the consulting business Mark had never disclosed on his conflict of interest forms. 3 days later, Mark was placed on administrative leave. His lawyer argued the consulting work was unrelated to his employment. The company didn't buy it. Mark sold pharmaceuticals. His consulting was for a medical device distributor. The conflict was obvious. Tanya's situation deteriorated in parallel. The DSS investigation expanded. An investigator interviewed Kevin, who produced 4 years of bank records proving regular child support. Tanya had claimed on her benefits application that she received no financial support from the father, and that his whereabouts were unknown, both false. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Tanya was required to repay $14,700 in overpaid benefits within 90 days, plus a $3,000 civil penalty. Failure meant wage garnishment and criminal referral. Tanya didn't call Claire. She called Mark and Gary told Claire about it later, shouting, doors slammed, Tanya screaming that Mark had ruined everything. Kevin filed his custody modification petition the following week, seeking primary physical custody of Jake and Sophie. Citing Tanya's pattern of dishonesty regarding the children's financial support and welfare, and that she'd used them as tools in personal disputes, Claire read a copy Kevin sent. Satisfaction that the truth was coming, grief that the kids were caught in the and a cold recognition that this was what Tanya had been risking all along. The community not dramatically. People changed their minds in private, not public. But Mrs. Patterson waved at Claire in the grocery store and walked toward her to, I owe you an apology. I heard things and I shouldn't have. Maria texted to reschedule. The Facebook parent group went back to fundraisers and teacher appreciation, and nobody mentioned. Rob came back. He found her in the break room one morning, pouring coffee into a chip. He leaned against the counter. I owe you an apology. I backed off when you needed someone to knock off. That was on me, Claire. Him. He wasn't making excuses. He was just there, saying, yes, Claire said. I probably would have pushed you away. Maybe, but I could have. I heard about the case. That takes guts, shrugged. It takes mostly. The coffee machine gurgled them. Then Rob's dinner? Sometime, not as a thing, just dinner. Claire said no. Then she said, yeah. It wasn't a romance. It was two adults who'd been through things, decided to share a meal. That was enough. This was real. Claire had spent just under $15,000 on legal fees. Savings down $4,000. She'd missed 3 days of work for clearances, and Karen had told her, but clearly, that the promotion was on hold. In a company where time is everything, on hold might as well. Then Mark and Tanya played card. It arrived at Elena's office. Mark alleged Claire had verbally agreed to provide financial support for the children and made multiple promises of finance. Attached with a note. Purport Claire. I will help with the kids as needed. Claire Bennett, called Claire. Her voice was flat. They've submitted a forged document. The signature doesn't match. We're having it forensically examined, but I can tell you right now, your signature. Claire stared at her phone. They forged my signature. They did. And in doing so, they just committed fraud on the court. That's not just bad strategy. That's a crime. The forensic examiner affirmed it 2 weeks later. The signature was a tracing settlement. The paper was new. The ink was new. The lie was obvious. Preliminary hearing. The judge looked over the forensic, then at Mark, then at Tanya in the gallery wearing a black not to cry. Mr. Bennett, the judge said, your situation is very serious. The allegations of fraudulent concealment are supported by substantial evidence. The counterclaim appears to be based on a forged document. Do you understand the gravity of what you're facing? Mark didn't answer. His lawyer, the words didn't matter. What mattered on Mark's face? The look of a man who'd just realized with him. After the hearing, Claire walked cold December air. I walked beside her. More thing, Elena said. The bank is foreclosing on Mark and Tanya's house. HELOC default. They haven't made a payment in 4 months. Claire stopped. The courthouse steps were cold beneath her shoes. A card passed. Slush. Foreclosure. Filed last week. Public record. They're going to lose the house. Claire looked up at the gray sky. She thought about the house. The one with granite tops and a 3-car garage, with money that wasn't theirs. She didn't feel triumphant. She felt tired, and underneath the tiredness, something quiet and steady, and that the trial was coming. And when it arrived, more hiding. Steady, she said. The trial was in mid-January, in a courtroom on the 8th floor of the Mecklenburg County Courthouse. The room smelled like old wood and floor wax. Claire sat at the plaintiff's table with Elena beside her, wearing a navy suit from a consignment shop because her good suit had a coffee stain and she couldn't afford to dry clean it. Mark sat at the defense table with his lawyer, Paul Grisham, who had the kind of face that looked sympathetic even when he was lying. Tanya sat in the gallery, wearing a gray sweater and no makeup, hands folded. She looked like a woman in mourning. Claire knew it was performance. Elena opened with the bank records. $182,000 in deposits to a South Carolina credit union, all from Bennett Consulting Group, registered in Mark's name 3 months before the divorce filing. None on his sworn affidavit. None in the marital estate, Grisham objected. These accounts were opened after separation. The income was post-separation. Elena was ready. The business was registered 3 months before separation. The first deposit was 2 weeks after Mr. Bennett filed. This was not post-separation income. This was concealed income. deliberately moved out of state to avoid detection. The judge nodded. Overruled. Continue. Then Gary testified. He walked to the stand, work boots squeaking, and raised his hand. He looked at Mark. Then Elena asked about the phone. The night Mark had called, drunk. Gary described it in his flat contractor's voice. No drama, no embellishment. Just facts. Did you record this conversation? I did. Gary. Because I was scared. Scared of what he was getting away with. Scared of what would happen if it came out and The record played. Mark's voice filled the room, slurred, confident. I handled that divorce scene. 180 grand she doesn't about. Tanya's welfare thing? Nobody's even checking. When it ended, the courtroom was quiet. Mark stayed at the table. His ear red. Grisham examined. You're the defense brother. You have a history. Objection, Elena said. Relevance. Sustained. Get down. Mark. Then called. She walked to the stand slowly. Raised her hand. Sat down. Elena stood. Ms. Bennett, you've told people in this community, at the school, on social media, public events, that your ex-husband, Kevin Crawford, does not support. Is that correct? Mouth tightened. I may have said he wasn't consistent. He was absent. Yet he was a deadbeat. You said, quoting a Facebook post dated the 14th, sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you disappear. You were referring to Miss You? Looked at her lawyer. Grisham stood. Objection. This is about... The statements are relevant to the counterclaim, Elena said. Ms. Bennett alleged my client refused to children in need. If the children were not in need, if their father paid full support, it is false, considered. Overruled. Answer the question. Tanya's eyes filled. I was stressed. I provide. Mr. Crawford produced 4 years of bank records showing regular monthly payments of $2,400. Did you receive those payments? A long silence. Tanya's shoulders shook. This is not... Did you receive payments, Ms. Bennett? Her voice cracked. Yes, I received them. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. 2 kids, a mortgage, a car. Idea what it costs? She pointed at Claire. She had money. She had all this and no kids to spend it on. Couldn't help. The courtroom was silent. Tanya was crying now, not performance, glee crying. Thank you, Ms. Bennett. Elena and sat down. Grisham didn't cross-examine. There was nothing to salvage. Mark didn't testify. His lawyer argued the settlement was final, but he's entered voluntarily, evaded by animus, even to Claire. The judge took 40 minutes. Court finds that the defendant, Mark Anthony Bennett, did knowingly and fraudulently conceal assets in the amount of $182,000. The court orders the defendant to pay the plaintiff $127,000 as her equitable share, plus $34 in alimony arrears, plus all reasonable attorney's fees. The court finds the counterclaim without merit and based on a forged document, which will be appropriate authorities. She looked up. The court does not look kindly. Mr. Bennett, you should consider yourself fortunate the plaintiff charges. Claire felt Elena's hand on the table. In the hallway after, walked up to her, face gray. Tanya behind him, holding a crumpled tissue. Claire, Mark said, voice hoarse. Come on, this is too much. We were married 15 years. Can't we figure something out? For our sake? Claire looked at him. She thought about 15 years. The infertility treatment, maybe it just wasn't meant to be. The 182 hidden while she lived on a budget. The word abuser. I'm not pursuing criminal charges, Mark. That's my choice. I'm not doing this to destroy you. I'm doing it because you stole from me and called me the bad guy. But I'm not giving you a discount. I'm not settling for less than what the judge ordered. And I'm not a person you can call when it's convenient. Mark stared, then nodded slowly away. Tanya followed. They walked down the hallway together, not talking. That afternoon, the went up on Mark and Tanya's front door. A neighbor took a photo and sent it to the community Facebook group. Nobody commented. Claire evening when Dana texted the screenshot. She looked at it. The official notice, the date, fault, and election to sell. Then her phone buzzed again. A number, it was Jake. Hey, it's Jake. I know you're a bad person. Sorry for what I said before. Sophia too, in it. None of it was real. Claire did it 3 times. Then typed back, I know. None of it was your fault. I'm here if you ever need to talk. She hit send. Set the phone down. Looked out the window at the January dark. Somewhere a dog barked. The furnace clicked on. It was over. The trial was over. The ruling was in. The money was coming. But the consequences, for Mark, for Jake and Sophia, were just beginning. The trial was in mid-January, in a courtroom on the 8th floor of the Mecklenburg County Courthouse. The room smelled like old wood and floor wax. Claire sat at the plaintiff's table with Elena beside her, wearing a navy suit from a consignment shop, because her good suit had a coffee stain, and she couldn't afford to dry clean it. Mark sat at the defense table with his lawyer, Paul Grisham, who had the kind of face that looked sympathetic even when he was lying. Tanya sat in the gallery, wearing a gray sweater and no makeup, hands folded. She looked like a woman in mourning. Claire knew it was performance. Elena opened with the bank records. $182,000 in deposits to a South Carolina credit union, all from Bennett Consulting Group, registered in Mark's name 3 months before the divorce filing. None on his sworn affidavit. None in the marital estate, Grisham objected. These accounts were opened after separation. The income was post-separation. Elena was ready. The business was registered 3 months before separation. The first deposit was 2 weeks after Mr. Bennett filed. This was not post-separation income. This was concealed income, deliberately moved out of state to avoid detection. The judge nodded. Overruled. Continue. Then Gary testified. He walked to the stand, work boots squeaking, and raised his hand. He looked at Mark once. Then Elena asked about the phone. The night Mark had called, drunk. Gary described it in his flat contractor's voice. No drama, no embellishment. Just facts. Did you record this conversation? I did. Gary asked. Because I was scared. Scared of what he was getting away with. Scared of what would happen if it came out and... The record played. Mark's voice filled the room, slurred, confident. I handled that divorce clean. $180,000 she doesn't know about. Tanya's welfare thing? Nobody's even checking. Golden. When it ended, the court was quiet. Mark's table. His ear red. Grisham examined. You're the defense brother. You have a history conflict. Objection, Elena said. Relevance. Sustained. He stepped down. He looked at Mark. Then Tanya was called. She walked to the stand slowly. Raised her hand. Sat down. Elena stood. Ms. Bennett, you've told people's community, at the school, on social media, public events, that your ex-husband, Kevin Crawford, does not pay court. Is that correct? Mouth tightened. I may have said consistent. He was absent. He was a deadbeat. You said, quoting a Facebook post dated, sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are there. You were referring to Ms. At her lawyer. Grisham stood. Objection. This is about... The statements are relevant to the counterclaim, Elena said. Ms. Bennett alleged my client refused to children in need. If children were not in need, if their father paid full support, premise is false. Judge considered. Overruled. Answer the question. Tanya's eyes filled. I was stressed. I was a mother trying to provide. Mr. Crawford produced 4 years of bank records showing regular monthly payments of $2,400. Did you receive those payments? A long silence. Tanya's shoulders shook. This is not... Did those payments, Ms. Bennett? Yes, her voice cracked. Yes, I received them. But it wasn't enough. It was never enough. 2 kids, a mortgage, a car. Any idea what it costs? And she pointed at Claire. She had money. She had all this money and no kids wouldn't help. The courtroom was silent. Tanya was crying now, not performatively crying. Thank you, Ms. Bennett, Elena said, and sat down. Didn't cross-examine. There was nothing to say. Mark didn't testify. His lawyer argued the settlement was final. Parties entered voluntarily, motivated by animus, even to Claire. The judge took 40 minutes. Court finds that the defendant, Mark Anthony Bennett, did knowingly and fraudulently conceal assets in the amount of $182,000. The court orders the defendant to pay the plaintiff $127,000 as her equitable share, plus $34,000 in alimony arrears, plus all reasonable attorney's fees. The court further finds the counterclaim without merit and based on a forged document, which will be appropriate authorities. She looked up. It does not look kindly odd. Mr. Bennett, you should consider yourself fortunate the plain criminal charges. Claire felt Elena's hand. In the hallway after, Mark walked up to her, face gray. Tanya behind, holding a tissue. Claire, Mark said, voice. Come on, this is too much. We were married 15 years. Can't we figure something out? For his sake? Claire looked at him. She thought about 15 years. The infertility, maybe it just wasn't meant to be. The 180 hidden while she lived on a budget. The word abuser. I'm not pursuing criminal charges, Mark. That's my choice. I'm not doing this to destroy you. I'm doing it because you stole from me and called me the bad guy. But I'm not giving you a discount. I'm not settling for less than what the judge ordered, and I'm the person you can call when convenient. Mark stared, then nodded slowly away. Tanya followed. They walked down the hallway not talking. That afternoon, this went up on Mark and Tanya's front door. A neighbor took a photo and sent it to the community group. Nobody commented. Claire saw it when Dana texted a screenshot. She looked at the official notice, the date, notice of default and election to... Then her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. It was Jake. Hey, it's Jake. I know you're not a bad person. I'm sorry for what I said before. Sophia, too. She didn't mean it. None of it was real. Claire 3 times. Then typed back, I know. None of it was your fault. I'm here if you ever need to talk. She hit send. Set the phone down. Looked out the January dark. Somewhere a dog. The furnace clicked on. It was over. The trial was over. The ruling was in. The money was coming. But the consequences, for Mark, for Jake and Sophia, were just beginning. The money came in March. It arrived as a wire transfer, $161,000, the total of property redivision, alimony arrears, and court-ordered attorney's fees. Claire stared at the number on her phone. Then she paid off the $15,000 in legal fees on her credit card, rebuilt her emergency fund, and with the remaining $130,000, she did something she'd been talking about for 6 years and never doing. She enrolled in the Architectural Design Certification Program at Central Piedmont Community College. 2-year program, night classes 3 nights a week. She'd wanted to be an architect at 19, before switching to construction management because Mark said architecture was unstable and didn't pay enough. She was 44. When she walked into the first class, a studio with drafting tables and big windows facing the Charlotte skyline, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Possibility. Mark's life moved in the opposite direction. He lost his pharmaceutical sales job in February. The internal investigation concluded his undisclosed consulting was an irreconcilable conflict. Terminated for cause. His sales license suspended. By April, he was selling used cars on commission at a dealership on the east side. Less than a month than he used to make in a week. Tanya fared worse. The DSS investigation found benefits fraud. 12 months unsupervised probation. Ordered to repay $14,700 plus a $3,000 penalty in monthly installments. Her wages garnished. Kevin awarded primary physical custody of Jake and Sophia. Tanya got every other weekend, supervised for 6 months. The kids moved into Kevin's townhouse in a different district. The house sold at auction in February for $315,000, less than that. The bank pursued a deficiency judgment. Mark and Tanya moved into a 2-bedroom apartment above a pizza. Claire didn't seek out. Gary told her reluctantly over. Are they together? Gary shrugged. Barely. Fight about money. Fight about kids. Taunt him. Blames her. But neither can leave. Claire nodded. She didn't feel action. Something closer to pity, which... Not enough to help. Just enough to recognize their lives are small now. Jake texted one meme. A baseball question. Once, a photo of Sophia holding a science project. A toothpick bridge. Texted back. Tell incredible. I always knew she had an engineer's brain. She didn't push. Didn't ask to see them. Let the relationship what it was. Warm, distant, bounded by the reality that they were not her children to be. That was okay to be. Rob took her to dinner in February, March. A place in Noda with wood-fired pizza trio. They talked about work, her classes, Rob's daughter in college in Asheville. Didn't talk about Mark or Tanya or the trial. On the 3rd date, Rob walked and said, I like you, Claire. I'm not in a hurry. Just wanted you to know. Claire kissed him. It was nice. Not fireworks, just nice. The kind that had the potential to become real. In April, the community center held its fair. Claire almost didn't go. Then she put on the same navy blazer worn to the fundraiser, the one that had felt like, and went. She was there representing a new start. Free home repair consultations for single parents. She did after the trial, drawing on her construction background and her own experience of learning herself. The board approved it. She sat at a table with a stack of flyers, orange, not unlike the one held at the school that day. Was Patterson? Claire. I saw your name on the program. Wonderful, thank you. Mrs. Patterson hesitated. I'm sorry about before. I should have known gossip. It's okay, Claire said. And it was. Because the apology mattered. No longer needed it. Maria came by. Linda from the school. A woman recognized who said, heard about what happened. You're brave. Claire thanked her and didn't elaborate. She wasn't brave. She was just a woman who'd been pushed too far being polite. That evening, balcony with coffee. The spring air was warm, smelling of grass and someone's barbecue. The sky turned pink orange over the rooftop. Her phone buzzed. A news alert from the local NBC affiliate. Woman wins fraud case against ex-husband after discovering during divorce. No names. 3 pairs buried in local news. Claire looked at it a moment, swiped it away, and face down, she looked up. The pink deepened to purple. Somewhere a cardinal sang. Coffee was warm in her hands. She thought about the word abuser, her chest like a stone. The room floor, the crying, the night she'd realized she wasn't less, she couldn't have children. The room, the judges, the wire transfer, the studio with big windows. Jake's text. I know you're not a bad person. She wasn't a bad person. Wasn't perfect. She was a woman who'd been hurt, made mistakes, fought back, and was now finally living the life she was afraid to build. The sky darkened. Stars came out one by one. Claire sat on her balcony and coffee and didn't check. It was enough.